Coding demo. So kicking off.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with brush coating or spray coating, obviously sewers are very common and that's what most people think of, or stacks. But there's also a lot of things we do as a contracting side and our end customers, of course, that are a little different than that. Because you can obviously shoot a liner or a lot of that stuff. And even we often say, if you can line it, you should probably line it. It's going to be a little cheaper, a little faster usually. But there's also other things like high rises. We do a lot of work internationally and in Finland as from our contracting services team. Pools, ships, industrial stuff. We've been on oil rigs, oil platforms, fountains, NASA. I mean, all kinds of different things. Besides just thinking about sewers, especially when you're doing coating.
A pipe is a pipe.
But the nice thing, one of the nice things about coating versus lining, although lining is getting easier and easier with all the new technologies and improvements, but coating is almost impossible to have a catastrophic failure. If you could dump too much coating material in or not enough, either one, you either put some more in or you can grind some out, but an actual like collapsed liner in a high risk situation like underneath or in a casino where shutting down a floor could cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars a night. That gives you heartburn. Coating kind of alleviates that. So this is just an example of one of the projects, this country this was in, but it was overseas, but that we did, or was it us in services, or was that our end customer? But so basically, well, oftentimes lining can be cheaper. This is a time where it actually was not. It was actually cheaper to coat it. So they had a 220-room hotel. The original estimate to rehab the entire facility was going to be 6 months. With coating, they were able to do it in 3 months. That's, obviously, you can run that math. 3 months of room block that they didn't have to shut down and not sell. And the actual cost, the original estimated cost for lining and replacing was like over $9 million, and they were able to coat it for $4 million. So that's, I was saying I'm not great at math, although it is a slide, but 3 months, 220 rooms, $172 a night. It's like about 40 grand a day, a little less. They saved, or almost 7 million in savings on that one project, plus whatever they made on drinks and stuff in the restaurants.
This, of course, is like the actual customer of the contractor that made that saving. But it's pretty simple matter. Were they going to pick for the contract if that is their savings? So, system that we are demoing here today is the Express one. It's the Express System 2.0 specifically. So that has heated poppers, it has heated hose reel, it has some very fancy electronics fixing the pressures for you, so you don't have to manually do it. The pump itself is meant for far reach, so we have 131 feet long reel and very minimal consumable waste. So we are mixing at the end of the hoses, right at the brushes, which means that we have very little waste in the system. The resin itself is a little bit faster than what we have in our original systems. That was the mini pump and the maxi pump. Still have them, still carry them. Very good system if you're doing coating maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. But if you go over that, you need to coat 2 times a week, definitely go over to the Express system. That's going to save you money in the long run. So the resin is a little bit faster. It's a little bit different in that it's a little bit flexible also. It's a single color resin, and yeah, it goes faster because we're mixing at the end of the hose, so we can have a little faster resin there.
I think we have a slide about it coming up, but there you go, covered that part. But.
So it mixes at the far end. You have a static mixer. Guys already prepared the brush package over there. So first we do the brush coating, but it's taped onto that. We connect the hoses onto it, and there we go. We can use this with any of our millers. Of course, the Maxi Miller with the extensions will have the most use out of this system because you have the same reach with that miller.
Yeah, 131 maximum feet with that setup.
Yeah, yes. So one additional benefit, of course, with mixing at the brush ends is that, for example, you're going in to make a patch somewhere 100 feet into a pipe. If you're mixing your resin before the pump, everything that you're using to get that resin all the way out there, so the delivery hose, that becomes a consumer. So if you're making a 3-foot patch somewhere, you're discarding 100 feet of hose for it. So with this system,
plus all the material.
Plus all the materials in the hose, exactly. So with this system, you have very minimal waste for those scenarios.
Basically, yeah, when you get done with your coat, whether it's the last coat or in between coats, all you're going to do is pull that out, cut everything off, clean out the tips, cap the ends, and you're good to go. As soon as you'll watch them and they'll do it, that hose and reel are already primed, so basically all they have to do to start coating is purge a little bit out of the mixing tip, make sure it's mixing, and then hit the button and it's pumping.
Right. So the heated hose tend to help with delivering the resin, although we can have a thicker resin because we keep it at a high heat, high heat is about 80 Fahrenheit. And that means that we can control better the properties of the resin as it comes out from the mixing tip. That means that you can use it in basically any environment also. The ambient temperature where you're working does not matter that much because we're controlling the heat ourselves.
We do have what we call the standard reel, or reel that is not heated throughout the whole length of the hose. It's like a heating blanket over it, but almost everyone now is going with this one because of the improved viscosities and the ability to do spray coating, which will be the second run we do. We'll do brush coating on the first one, and then they'll show our new spray coating rig. But you have to have the heated reel to do spray coating because you need that perfect consistency to come up with.
Yeah, it's a little bit more sensitive to the properties of the resin to do the spray coating. So definitely heated hose for that.
So yeah, as they're still prepping, we'll go over this. But we kind of talked about this, but obviously some of the benefits, obviously it's a more expensive system than say a mini or maxi, but it pays for itself pretty quickly. You've got 1 hour cure to 90 minutes depending if you're using the heater or not versus 2 to 3.5 hours with the other system. So the resin itself is also cheaper. They probably saw it over on the other side. It comes in like 3-gallon buckets versus the cartridges. The resin isn't cheaper. But
the
packages are cheaper, which from your end, on the customer side of purchasing, it's about 28% cheaper material you're putting in the pipe. And then you've got the primed hose reel, so instead of pumping and mixing outside and pumping all the way down, depending on the distance, you're going to save 10 to 20 minutes per coat. So you can kind of run all that math, which I have a slide on after this, but yeah.
Yeah, so the last example was the contractor's customer getting the savings. So this is about the contractor's savings.
Exactly. So yeah, there's an example. We just said, okay, well, why should I do this? Well, I've already said, if you're doing coating once a week, once every 2 weeks or so, you probably wouldn't go straight into an express system. But it doesn't take very long. What's the next slide? I did that last year too. Anyway, it doesn't take that long to pay off the difference. So because of all that time savings and the material savings, so we ran some quick math and got some contractors to give us their costs and their profits. And basically 35 feet of 4-inch took about 7 projects to pay off the difference between getting the two systems. And then after that, all that time savings was about, or during that 7 projects, was about 85 hours they saved. If you lived in a perfect world and then could use every hour of that 85 hours, you could do another almost 14 and a half projects, or about 80 grand of additional revenue besides the break-evens. This is your base.
Yeah, so introducing the spray coating system. So yeah, it's going to grab ahead. There it's right here. So the guys have prepped their brush leader that attaches to the miller shaft. So later when we're doing the spray coating, the leader gets replaced with the spray head. So it's driven by the miller itself, keeps it really simple and also keeps your equipment really compact. We're using the same equipment for spray coating as we use it for the brush coating, so you don't need an extra compressor, for example. And we're putting in 1800 RPM racing at the 10K. We're feeding in product into the cup and that disperses it onto the wall of the pipe. So why do we do this? We always recommend doing brush coating first because that puts the pressure on the wall of the pipe. So it actually presses the resin into cracks and connectors and etc. But then when you actually want to build up like thickness, you want to have a nice coat, you move over to the spray head. So first brushes, then you put on the spray head. And that's when you can really start to build up thickness because as you're applying with the brushes, you're also slightly scraping off. That doesn't happen with the spray because you're only applying. And yeah, as I said, it makes a nice finish also.
Yeah, current system 3 to 4 inch. We're working on 6-inch centralizers, and then for sure there'll be something maybe bigger, smaller.
All right. So we have our training operations managers from Phoenix, Arizona. Joseph is going to do the brush coating, and Timo is running the pump over there. Technical trainer also from Phoenix, Arizona. Go ahead, guys.
I'm priming now.
All right.
So what they're doing now is they're priming. Ryan mentioned earlier, we already have product there at the static mixer, so now they're just purging a little bit to checking that the ratio is correct. But that takes like 30 seconds to 1 minute maybe to do so, compared to our original system where you, in some cases, have to wait 15 minutes to get it all the way up to the end. So really not a big chore. So there on the screens on the edges or on the sides, you can see exactly what Joe is also seeing. Correction on all the screens. Do not put a self-leveling camera on this because it's going to start to spin. The pump itself is like a really simple construction. Because of that, it can also create really high pressures, and that's why we can move a really thick resin 131 feet. So it's basically just two very large pistons pressing the product through the lines.
Yeah, with coating, you always start from the far end, work toward yourself, coming backwards. That way you can see what you're applying and go back in if you need to put a little more on, or inspect your work and then pull out back toward you.
So Joe dropped a little pool of resin there, and now as he's pulling back, he's watching the bead on the brushes. He tries to keep a consistent bead because that is what disperses the material around. The whole circumference. You have two brushes right behind each other, and that's especially when you go into bends to get the inner bend first and the outer bend. So on a straight section, maybe do one, but especially for the bends, no brushes in this case.
Generally work in about 1 meter or 3 foot sections. Dispense the brush back, stop the rotation, push forward a little bit, check make sure your coat looks even and thick enough. Rotate back through to keep dragging the resin with you or drag lines, and then do another.
Yeah, in the field it's very rare to actually get to see the pipe from the outside.
Almost
it does
help
help though.
It's like really simple.
Yeah. So Joe also has ability to adjust how much product he gets at the brushes. He has the remote there on his bucket belt and team, but I know he has it. So there's an adjustment so he can feel more or less depending on what speed is comfortable for him.
I'm running them drive right now.
Yeah, just purposely running it dry just so you can see a little bit there of how the brushes make the marks and drag it. Just spin some more, push forward.
So now you can see exactly now he doesn't leave much of a streak, so he knows that he does not have a lot there. So goes back in, which is a little bit more material, and that's basically how you inspect your work as you go when doing brush coating. It's a little bit different when we go to the spray, but we'll go over that then.
Joe, Tino, and he's here. They basically run our training center operations there in Phoenix, where we do the brush coating and certified installer training, which is a 2-day training. Some other training we do, but that's one of the most popular ones. And what that does, besides teach you how to do brush coating and also cleaning, piping, prepping, all of that that's needed to be successful, it gives you a 10-year manufacturer's warranty on the product side as well, if you're a certified installer. You can also go to Finland or the UK.
To Finland.
Yeah. Figure you. Actually, no, that's not true. Some people do go all the way from the States over there. They just want to see the factory. You can get certified again.
And Finland is really nice this time of the year. It's not dark at all.
Or cool.
Or cold.
You sure about that? Pressure off, please.
Yeah, you have a chance to see the northern lights.
Didn't see it last year.
Alright, so guys just finished brush coat. Now they're going to swap over to the spray head.
Cleanup's pretty nice and simple. Obviously, while Tino's doing the spray, Joe will be cleaning up the other one, but it's just, we generally use a bucket with acetone. Obviously, using safety glasses and a lid, but you just spin the brushes in there and you can reuse them.
Yeah.
Usually at least 7 to 10 times or so, depending on how well you clean them.
Yeah, there are, so acetone is of course extremely easy to get by, to get your hands on. There are some other cleaning agents specifically made for resins that are a little bit nicer to work with. They don't smell as bad, for example, and not as nasty. But yeah, they of course can be a little bit more difficult to come by. I know for a fact that some of our listeners can provide products like those. So you can see that Tino is actually swapping over now on the pump to the heated wheel. So all of the fittings are like these drip-free fittings, so you just disconnect and you can swap over to another one. Everything stays clean and nice and ready to go for the next time. So keeping your environment clean is also very important for making a successful job at the customer's place.
Yeah, so Joe was using what comes also with the pump, which is our small diameter hose package. So that's what allows us to do 1.25 up to 2, and then we'll do 49 feet with that. And then as you go up from there, then the hose reels will get you up to 131 feet, depending on the Miller combo.
So now you can see Tino is setting up the spray head. Basically means he's swapping over the camera and attaching the spray head to the Miller shaft. There's that same static mixer that we used for the brush coating. Use that also for the spray.
Eso no tienes por qué averiguarlo.
You can see both. On the spray head itself, you have one more consumable. So that small red hose and the connector, that's the feed tube that goes after the style mixer. That is also consumable on the spray head, but of course, very inexpensive part. The cup itself can work on the whole spray head and the big blanket brushes. The spray head we sell as a I wouldn't say like a starter kit. So it comes with 10 of each consumables and the centralizers that you need. And basically everything to get you started. If you have an express pump with a heated hose stream, it's you remember the price for it? It's less than $1,000 and it's like, and you're ready to go. And you get your spray coating if you have a brush coating.
As I was saying.
Compared to the price of an express system, it's all basically no brainer. This way, 3 to 4 inch for now, and going up there.
So, like we mentioned, we are working with epoxy resin here, and as you can see, the guys are not really rushing anything because we have with epoxy resin, with this specific resin, we have like 10 minutes of gel time, so it's not about seconds. We have 10 minutes of time if something goes wrong. Say you have a blackout or whatever, you don't have to panic. You have the time, and guys are taking their time to keep things in order and not make mistakes.
3.5.
Stress makes mistakes. There you can see actually Jukka is holding the small diameter kit that we were using earlier. So that's just primed and ready for the next time. So it's just capped off and the product is in the hoses. So you never have to re-prime them or anything. They're just always ready to go.
Lo máximo, ¿no?
Sí.
Lo máximo.
Pressure's on.
More pressure on? Pressure is on.
Yes, so that's with especially like what Joe was doing earlier. So he was watching that bead. If you have a consistent bead with experience, you know exactly when you have the correct amount of resin. And if it's all the way around the pipe as you're pulling forward, you're applying as much as the brush can put down. And then the other way, of course, of checking is what he then demonstrated, like the way he stopped the brushes, went in, watched for the streak. If it's pulling, you see how thick of a exactly. And then you have a consistent coat.
Second year. It is a little harder to see. Obviously, going black versus white is very obvious with our mini or maxi pumps, but the express resin, once it dries, it actually gives quite a bit different shade of gray. So it takes a little experience, but when you look at it, you can actually see wet versus dry color.
Yeah, you can tell which what's wet, what's not.
It's not as easy as black and white. That's obvious, but yeah.
It is.
And of course, if you are doing, of course, that's only 3 to 4 right now, but it will expand. If you're doing spray coating, then you're pull back, as long as you're consistent there, then you know if you're doing thicker or even like brushing it on.
Yeah, so future development is also, which we will have hopefully very soon, is a assisting device, like a pullback device, that will give you the speed to pull back for the
maintain speed. Yeah. Exactly. Right.
So there you can see a little bit different, of course, because there you can see straight through the actual spray film. So you can see the layer he is putting down. Right now he's putting down a really thin coat, but if you, again, we can just crank it up, and then you can really see what stuff to put down. So this time he's, again, of course, he's trying to keep consistent speed as he's pulling back, and like I mentioned, you actually will have like a pull assist, so that will also help you with holding a consistent speed. He's also, of course, watching the product as it's slowing down. And the benefit, of course, with this system is that you are seeing your end result as you're doing it. What he's putting down is what it will be when you put the security also. Of course, if he's going to really push the excess material, it's going to be cool, but yeah, do it correctly. So.
Like painting or painting on your house too, the second and third and fourth coats actually can go on thicker because it's adhering back to itself and especially of course if we're in a plastic fiber. Actually the hardest thing to coat, but just like anybody who's familiar with standard epoxy liner or anything like that, any two-part that you mix in mass puts out heat, cures or sets up faster, so the thicker you're able to put on the coating, the faster it's actually going to cure as well. So that's another nice thing with adding the sprays, we'll be able to get more consistent, shorter curing times as well. And how thick you go well under it. Yeah, so because we can control everything from the remote, like obviously the foot pedal is controlling the spray or the rotation, the distance when you're doing the emergency stop and speed, and then it's got a locking trigger button, so you can turn on or off with that trigger button, leave that going, and then you can and there's an e-stop on there.
So it's really hard to get a thick coat when the pump is off.
Yeah. I don't want to say anything, but I was wondering why they're going back. Oh, there you go. Turning the pump on also.
Yeah, that usually helps.
I need the color. I'm used to the switch.
No pressure.
It's way easier to go from your
This is the first demo.
Okay, we have boxer resin 10 minutes of time. There was no catastrophe waiting to happen to our units.
Use a glass liner to get it off.
So there you can see also you can go back in. Of course, to add a little bit more if it's not happy with how much you put down.
If you have any questions, obviously ask now, or we'll be back in a second. I'll grab any questions. Also, at 3:30 today in the booth, we're having a booth happy hour, so feel free to stop back by during this part of the booth or showroom and grab a beer. couple different options on the for 4 different beer types. If you didn't see it or haven't tried it, the Pro Light station right behind us here, we're also giving away a Pro Light each day. All you have to do is try it real quick, put your name in the drawing. We're doing that. And also on the very last day, it's from 9 to 2. It's pretty much just a hands-on, try anything you want kind of day. So if you want to do spray coating or brush coating, you can come by and do it that day as well.
Yeah. Of course, if you go
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. So Thursday.